Okay. Good morning, everyone. And it's a real pleasure to be here again. Probably someone remembers that I was speaking in 2011 at the same conference. And actually, my speech here was the first after the first release of LibreOffice, the LibreOffice 3.3. And at that time, this was the last slide I presented here 8 years ago. And of course, at that time, the word dream was not there, but the reality is that at that time I was selling a dream, basically. We had just released the first version of LibreOffice. We forked a few months before, and it was really there was really a big question mark around close to our project. And if you think when I'm one of the 16 founders, and if you think that we forked the project and basically, of course, we have one big, huge competitor. I will not mention that company, but you know who is that company. And we forked against the will of Oracle, IBM, and lately we discovered Apache Foundation. So that, let's say that was not trivial, was a little bit of being brave. I'm the oldest of the founders. At that time, I was 55, and I'm now 65. So, and I'm still alive, surviving. My knees are a little bit hurting, but that's just time. So, after 10 years of heritage, everyone knows what happened with OpenOffice. The product was born in '84 in Germany, from a German student. So basically was born 6 months before the first Microsoft product, which was Word 2.0 for DOS. So the people that say that is a clone, actually the clone is the other one. Then at the end of the century, of last century, Sun acquired the Star Division and made OpenOffice as an open source product. And everything apparently worked smoothly for 10 years. But the reality is that the community started to disagree more and more with Sun. So in the year 2000, this was the code of OpenOffice, and this was the code of OpenOffice after 5 years. I'm not a developer, so I just look at the visual, but what the visual tells me is that the product was growing without a lot of coordination. And in fact, there was a lot of new features added at that time, but the code was not cleaned. And so at the conference in 2006, Michael Bemmer, he was the leader of the Sun division, made a promise that is, we will reduce code complexity, we will improve patch handling. There was historically one patch from Kohei Yoshida who sat in a branch for 28 months before being merged. And that, of course, was not pleasant for anyone because it was a key patch for calc, and especially for the compatibility with Excel. So and that because Kohei was not a recognized member of the community. He's a brilliant developer, but it was not signing the what Sun wanted to give the CLA to give the code, the property of the code to Sun. So there was a large discussion. At the end, Kohei signed the CLA, they merged the patch, but that was the situation. Was not going smoothly between the community and Sun. And in 2009, Oracle acquired Sun. And of course, what happened is that the leaders of the community, and it was informed, you know, communities are funny things, especially if you have a corporate background, you will never understand a community. This is what the big issue with IBM, with Oracle. I would say that is less of an issue for Microsoft today because they've started hiring people from the community. When I try to explain to IBM people the difference, I have a background in a corporate environment in the United States. I was Vice President Marketing for Peripherals for Annual Corporation. Probably only a few of you remember the company. It was second largest in computers after IBM in the 80s. And now I'm an open source advocate and a member of the community. And I say, to explain to IBM people, I said, let's try to imagine the following. Me meeting the me of 35, 40 years ago, so the 80s, meeting the me today. So the first me, so the corporate guy, would have no doubt. I would pick a gun and shoot me after 30 years. But the reality is that I'm the same person that has changed his perspective over the 30 years that have passed. Open source was born, and all the rest. While the corporation, they still figured that the world is like in the 60s. I rule the world and you cannot discuss. And this was not really what the community wanted. So when with the Oracle acquired Sun, we started to question what was the future of OpenOffice. And it was very clear to people that had a corporate background that the future of OpenOffice was death. So the community took their energy and we did what we think, we relaunched the innovation. So of course there was a risk, but the reality is that what you see today is this. There is still an OpenOffice which is maintained by a few people. It's maintained in an embarrassing way. They always have, for the last 5 years, they always have security issues patched after months. We have never had a security issue touching the end user. At the OpenOffice conference in Budapest in 2010, we had what we call the first supper. We don't want to have a last supper, or at least we want to have it further in time. And these are the people. As you see, my picture, I was a little bit younger, but as I have white hairs since forever almost, my difference is not so evident. But if you look at the other guys, and if you look at them today, you will see that 10 years have gone by. And we announced the fork a few days after, so September 28, 2010. I launched the press release. I've always been managing the communication of LibreOffice. I launched the press release, and we did a large hit in general terms, in terms of communication. The community was surprised, but I would say that majority of the community had no real doubts in following LibreOffice instead of OpenOffice. So we announced LibreOffice, we announced the foundation. We wanted to have a clear path with a foundation being in charge of coordinating all the activities and LibreOffice as a product. We didn't want to have the product and the project with the same name because that would be easier to understand for people, but it would be more difficult to maintain over the time, because LibreOffice can change, and it has changed, while the foundation has to be very stable, very solid, should not change over the years. Should change, but based on consensus, it takes time, while the product changes more quickly. And at that time, we launched what it was a dream, let's say LibreOffice 2020. We said we want to have 200 million users by 2020. Actually, we announced 200 million users in last year, so in 2018, two years before the target. Next year, we will make a year of celebration because of course, we want to attend events, and this is basically 1 year before what will happen next year. We will attend open source event to celebrate with the local communities 10 years of LibreOffice and 20 years of the open source Office suite. What happened then to OpenOffice? OpenOffice was forked, in fact was forked twice, was forked by LibreOffice and was forked by Apache OpenOffice. They changed the license, so it's a fork. In 2011, a couple of months after I spoke here, Oracle donated the OpenOffice code to Apache Software Foundation. And what is funny is that IBM, it usually takes ages to release a press release, and they release a press release 20 minutes after the Oracle announcement with 3 blogs pointing to each other. So it was carefully prepared before, and after a while they recognized that their move was intended to kill LibreOffice. They didn't want the community to control the software. And if you think that we are in a market that is still worth $25 billion, not million, billion dollars, having a community that can control something like 10% of that market is embarrassing for corporations, because they cannot rule what we do with the product. They cannot tell us what to do with the product. We are independent. Of course, it's a challenge being independent and staying keeping pace with proprietary product. But I can say that in 9 years so far, we have managed to do it rather properly. So we reverted the paradigm, and we changed the umbrella culture is you stay under the umbrella, and this is what corporations like for communities. You stay under the umbrella. If you get out of the umbrella, you get wet, so you come back. While we moved in the States, this is a design from a friend who is a PR guy. So he has nothing to do originally, but it wanted to explain the concept. In the States, they don't use they use the mixing bowl. So if you put all the ingredients in a mixing bowl, only if they are mixed very well, what you eat is good. In Europe, at least in Italy, we use the canoe or the boat paradigm. We say that if everyone rows in the same direction, then the boat goes to the end. But whatever you use, a mixing bowl or a boat, it is rather clear. Here means that these people, the community, do not have power. Here, the community has power. If I go back to the OpenOffice days, when I was a community member in Italy, and I was releasing press releases for the Italian community. And I remember that some people said, you should stop sending out your press releases, because the journalists pick up your press releases and do not pick up ours. And I said, you can fire me whenever you want. And I said, but we cannot fire you, you are a volunteer. So you got the point. You have a volunteer who is professionally better than your agency, so probably than your PR agency, which was the most expensive in Italy at the time, but probably also one of the most incapable in technology. And I said, you should think about changing your agency. You cannot change a volunteer. You can shoot me, but then there are ethical, you know, this kind of collateral damage issues. So if you don't shoot me, sorry, you've lost the battle. I will never stop sending out press releases with the community message. And sorry, if the community message is stronger and better than the corporate message, this is your problem, it's not my problem. So the foundation was launched. This is the first homepage of the Document Foundation website. We still have a Document Foundation website. It still makes sense to have a Document Foundation website because it's a reference. We have there our statutes, we have there our governance, we publish our ledgers on a regular basis, we publish our annual report. It's a reference for projects that are managed at foundation level, like certification. And I will talk about that later on. So it's not a sexy website, but it's a website that provides a reference for the community. We welcome new members. If you are contributing to the project, and on a regular basis, you should become a member. Why? For several reasons. First, if you are a member, that is a recognition of your contribution. Second, you can vote for the governance. Third, you can be voted for the governance. We have had a board mainly European for the first couple of iterations. Now we have a board with someone from Taiwan. We have a board with young people that were not among the founders. So the foundation is evolving. In the membership committee, we have one guy from Indonesia, we have one guy from Brazil. This is what an independent project should be like. At the moment, we don't have any member in the governance, in the 2 or 3. We have a board of directors and a membership committee. The membership committee is responsible for admitting members. So we don't have anyone from Croatia or from let's call it former Eastern Europe countries. And we would like to have someone in the future because that will represent a different culture, a different way of doing things, and I think that only by merging cultures we can be a strong project that survives the competition with proprietary products. So we basically founded the community based on 5 principles. Copyleft license. We moved from LGPL to MPL because that was easier to manage, especially with app stores. But that was the only reason. There's nothing against the LGPL. The MPL makes it a little bit easier to be in app stores. No contributor agreement. Of course, you are recognized, but we don't ask you to give out the property of your code to the foundation for 2 reasons. First, because we respect the individuals. Second, because this makes impossible to fork LibreOffice. In the same way, so with a hostile fork like Apache OpenOffice, the same way that they did because they changed license. And to change LibreOffice license, you have to talk to about 2,000 people today. because they've all released their code under MPL plus LGPL 3+. So to change that license, you have to talk to those people, and there will be some people. You have one in front of you. I have one patch, which is not significant, but you would have to kill me to change my license to a kind of permissive license. It's based on meritocracy, so people who are doing are also leading projects. Community governance, as I've already said, I'm not elected anymore. I've been a member of the original board of directors, the first one. As my task was becoming almost full-time, and of course there would have been a conflict of interest in being a member of the board of directors and being a consultant to the foundation. I'm now one of the team members. We have around a team of around 10 people that work daily to maintain let's say, the infrastructure of the project. And vendor independence. In our status, we have a threshold for 30% of votes in the two official bodies. So in the board of directors and in the membership committee, there cannot be more than 30% of members with the same affiliation. Because we don't want to go back to the years of Sun, where the community, let's call it, it was called a community council, was 3 members elected by Sun, so-called community manager, and 3 members elected by the community. And guess all the votes were 4-3, because the community member was kind of laying in front of Sun, because it was afraid of being fired, probably, I don't know. It was, for sure, it was one of the worst community members I've ever known in my life. And we create a foundation to promote free software, user freedom, document freedom, open standards, and LibreOffice. And the order is the real order. So we are for free software, software user freedom first, then for document freedom and open standards, and these are of growing importance, and I will spend a few minutes on this topic later. And then LibreOffice. Of course, we promote LibreOffice, but LibreOffice is a tool to give free software freedom to users, open standards, and so on. This is a reference for the bodies of the Document Foundation, so you see the number of members. The number of members is growing slowly because we don't want to give membership to everyone. And of course, our main asset were and are developers. Without quality developers, I would not be here today. You would not have the LibreOffice you have today. Of course, our community is a little bit different in general from open source project communities, because we have a majority of non-developers in the community. We have a huge number of users, we have a huge number of people that is doing other stuff, marketing, promotion at local level, localization in languages, and so on. But developers are key, because without developers you don't have the product, and without the product you don't have the project, and you don't have the other community members. Developers invented the easy hack. Starting to code on LibreOffice is complex, 7+ million lines of codes and a huge number of files. It's difficult to understand and to navigate the code if you are not a skilled developer. So the senior developers, they kind of made a puzzle of small pieces of the LibreOffice code and found items that could be solved by a junior developer, by someone that are not real was not real knowledgeable with the source code of OpenOffice first and then LibreOffice. And that turned to be a kind of secret for the growth of the number of people, because we made it easy to access the code. And this is the last slide. We counted the number of new developers. But if you see the green, there is a very small light green. Apart from this one, is the second month we had kind of 100 new developers. But then there is a tiny number, never less than 3 new developers per month, and we got almost to 1,200. That was in half of 2015, and then we said, okay, now people can see that we have a growing developer base. We don't have the issue of having new developers, so let's stop counting them and give for granted that we are good at getting new developers. And what are doing the code contributors? Of course, the number I've showed you is larger, but as in any open source project, developers are coming and going. So we have a core of around 300 developers. We have around 40 developers that are paid by companies to develop LibreOffice. We have regular contributors. They are volunteers, but they are almost 100. And then we have occasional, but not occasional in the sense that they do something in the course of the year, but on a regular basis. So we get to an average of 300 developers active on the code. And this is since 2010-11. So again, we don't count them anymore. We check that the number is stable, but we don't count that anymore. These are Git commits in 2019. As you can see, during the week, it's stable. Of course, on Sundays, we have less developer active. And these are the organizations that are contributing today. The Collabora. Unknown is our volunteers. I know that there are better names that are known, but these are volunteers. Then we have Red Hat, SIB, TDF are TDF employees. Munich, again, unknown, parentheses, is because we don't even know. They are unknown to the point that we don't even know their name. They just leave their nickname. And so on. So as you see, 75% is done basically by the first 4. And this, on one sense, could be a risk, but it's less of a risk if you think that Collabora and CIB are building a business on top of LibreOffice. So they are committed to work on LibreOffice. Of course, Red Hat might change in the future following the IBM acquisition. I was not happy when they announced the acquisition. If you have not clear that I don't like IBM as a company, but if it was not clear, I declare officially that I don't like IBM as a company. But after 8 years, we can say that it's stable. Of course, we look after the code carefully. We are on the 4th development cycle. The first one was cleaning the code. There was a huge amount of craft in the code that we had to. There were libraries not used and deprecated 8 years before that were still there. So we cleaned the code, then refactored the code. We rewrote some libraries that were old. Then we start working the user interface. We still work at the user interface. Of course, the user interface, it's a continuous, but during the 5 family, the user interface was completely overhauled. And now we call it ubiquitous productivity because we have also the online version that is being improved almost on a daily basis. So what we have achieved, we have basically done what was promised by Sun in 2006. We did it quite quickly, but we still work at improving the code because we know the importance of LibreOffice, and with a growing number of organizations using LibreOffice, the importance of keeping the pace of the product is growing. We use Coverity Scan to improve the quality of the code. We also use Google OS foss. This helps a lot in spotting vulnerabilities. And these are the results. So issues for 1,000 lines of source code. This is the average of proprietary software. This is the average of free open source software, and this is LibreOffice. At the moment, we are at 0.000001. We have 50 before the 1. It's like if for people that are not familiar with source code, it's like we had one typo every 400 typewritten page, which is beyond any human possibility. And of course, the community was, as I said, is important. This is where the community, the known community is. Of course, we discover some new community people on a regular basis. Africa, it's a problem because, of course, they have other problems than open source software. But we know that in Africa, the use of LibreOffice is a lot higher than we know, but it's difficult to have sources, dependable sources. This is the community on the last 12 months. These are the core people that is working almost on a daily basis. This, I would say, regular on a weekly basis, and these are people working on a monthly basis. So the total makes over 100 people working on LibreOffice on a regular basis, which is something that is, if you think about the size of the project, is still amazing. And let's talk a little bit about LibreOffice and what is related to LibreOffice. So, although this is a research made 2 years ago, was called Future of Open Source. At that time, 78% of companies declared that they were running on open source software, and only less than 3% were saying that they were not using open source at all. But of course, this has a lot more to do with the infrastructure than with the desktop. Unfortunately, on the desktop, we are still lagging behind. And let's see what it means having open source software lagging on the desktop. I didn't tell you, but I'm a geographer. I have a degree in humanities and I have a degree in geography, so I'm familiar with maps. This is the normal map that you always see is based on the countries by surface. If we do that countries by population, you see that the map changes a little bit. And if we do that countries by export of software licenses, this changes in an amazing way. We have the United States, and then we have Ireland. Because Ireland exports software to all of Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, import software from the United States, or they package software there. You know why? Because in Ireland, taxes are less than 4%. And let's look at the opposite, so import of software licenses. Ireland is still big because to export, they have to import. But you see all the other countries. Look at Italy, my country, how big it is. But this is Croatia, I think it's rather visible. If you are looking for the United States, they are 1 pixel line between Mexico and Canada. So this is the result of not having open source software on the desktop. And people should think about this, because this means that we are all, even I'm using a Linux desktop, I would say, of course, I'm also using a Macintosh, but I'm mainly using a Linux desktop, and so I'm free from this, but the reality is that around me there is people that is not free, and this it's also involving me in their not being free. LibreOffice, by the way, in that research was considered the fourth most important product. All the others are on the server mostly. Even Ubuntu today is more, gets more money from the servers than from the desktop. And if you look at Google Trends during the last 12 months, you can see that LibreOffice is leading the pack. So this is LibreOffice. This is still OpenOffice, which is amazing. There is a heritage of people still installing OpenOffice because they think that it's the same as LibreOffice. It's a completely different product. This is WPS Office. It's mainly known in Asia because it's a Chinese company, so they have a lot of users in China, and of course a lot of users in China, which is 1.5 billion people, changes a little bit the geography. And this is only Office. It's an Ukrainian product, Letonian, sorry, product. They're very aggressive in the business area, they're not aggressive with users, but we are keeping an eye on that. So which are the peculiarities of our project? Is the first project supposed to be killed by another open source project, thanks OpenOffice, Apache OpenOffice and Apache Foundation. We have a large community, and we don't have a community manager, and it works. The software is localized in more than 100 languages. We have around 200 million users worldwide. The project is self-sustaining and completely vendor independent. And we have attracted 3 or more developers per month for 8 straight years. But let's now move to a very important collateral concept, which is open standards and open formats. If we had that situation, an interoperable open format, LibreOffice would probably have 5 times as much market share, because ODF is the only real standard format. The Office OpenXML, which is the supposedly standard format of Microsoft Office, is standard on paper but not on deployments. So the standard formats are this one. We have an ODF-based interoperability, the benefit of interoperability, cost of interoperability not based on formats. If you look at the figure here, this is a single market, over $1 billion of hidden money on this market. $500 million was lost on non-interoperable formats. So the problem is that we have a simple standard format versus a complex standard format. This would be LibreOffice at it writes. This is how Microsoft Office would write the same sentence. It's funny, it's unbelievable, but it's the reality. So if you compare these files, you see the number of lines, the XML. You see the same file in front of you, but what the computer has to do is to interpret something completely different. And if you see that there are seasonalities in Microsoft XML, so you have a spring version and an autumn version for each file, which is funny, but is unfortunately the reality. And what brings this? It brings the fact that if you have a non-stable standard format, you are open to vulnerabilities. This is a comparison between the ODF format and Office OpenXML during the last 3 years. And what we would expect from a company that is writing a manual how to lock in your clients. This is true. I can give you the PDF. It's a Microsoft file. So what we should aim is to get to true interoperability, and we have, of course, to educate companies. We have, as I said, 200 million users. This is more or less a calculation of the numbers. We provide two versions of the software because we provide a version which is more tested, not more stable, more tested, and we call it still, and we call it fresh, the last one, by the way. Today at 1 p.m. we will announce C.2.3. This is the difference. So we expect power users to use the fresh version and all the other users to use the still. And companies, we would expect them to use an LTS version. And we have an LTS version provided by those two companies. And we have online LibreOffice. This is Calc. I don't have Impress, but as you can see, this is installed on Nextcloud, on a Nextcloud instance. We provide a Docker container with the software. But we still have barriers to foss adoption, so we still have to grow the ecosystem. We still have to convince people that they can do business with LibreOffice. So we have created a certification project. And people can be certified. And people can, at least in some countries, bids start to say, if you are certified, we accept that we recognize that your cost is higher. We have a migration protocol, which is a reference for certified people to migrate from proprietary to open source software. We have a training protocol by skills and a training protocol by tasks. So these are, and we don't have anyone certified from Croatia. So go to the Document Foundation website, certification area, look for it. You may have the requisites to apply for that. And if you are interested in knowing more, we have an annual report. We are working at the 2018 will be ready in a month. And as I said, I took the video out, but what we have done, and only by working together, we will be able to create something which is even more important than it is today. So the video was from Frankenstein Jr., if you remember, when he says, we can do it. So together, and when I mean together, it's really together. So like a big global community respecting each other, different peculiarities, we can continue to do what we have done, and I hope we can improve what we have done during the last 8 years. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming. So what are your views on corporate contributors and things like that? Because sometimes it's easier to contribute as a corporate contributor than on your own time and ownership and so on.
So if I understand well, which are the advantages for a corporate?
No, what I meant is what are the views on people contributing pretty much with a corporation still owning the copyright? Because in some cases it's companies still own the copyright even if you do something on your own time. They make it difficult to contribute as yourself.
We see an increase in the number of companies that are contributing to LibreOffice. Of course, it's not so easy because they have to understand what the project is about. So it takes some time. The first question is usually, can we maintain the property of the software? And we say, what is between you and your developer? It's not our business. So we want the code and we want it under a specific license. Then, which is the agreement within the developer and the company. We hope it's fair, but we cannot rule the world. We would like to, but you know, it's. So we leave to the company and the individual freedom of choosing their relationship. We are rather strong on MPL, LGPL 3+, MPL plus, LGPL 3+.
Anyone else?
Hi, thank you for coming. I'd like to ask, so what is the scope of the involvement of your community in the online component, so the online editor? I think that a lot of people today are using Google Docs because it's easier and it's always there. So how much effort is in that area?
So with the online, our problem is that we cannot provide an infrastructure like Google and Microsoft because the servers are expensive. And so the idea, at the moment, for instance, there is the largest German ISP who is starting to deploy LibreOffice online for their users. And this is what we would like to see. So ISP at local level, creating a server where they deploy LibreOffice for the user, and they can make it a paying service, and we are happy if they make it a paying service to pay for their infrastructure. There's nothing that prevents them to do that. For sure, TDF has not the power. We cannot put together data centers which are 1 billion each in terms of cost to support the users. This is really, it's impossible. And what we should, we as open source advocates, we should do is explain people that using Google Docs may be fine. I'm using Google Docs as well for some small tasks, especially when I don't want to lose my time to explain to people that there are better solutions. But I will, if they ask me to share data which I consider sensitive, I will tell them I will never use Google Docs, sorry. And we should educate people about sensitivity of data. I've seen people putting their passwords and usernames on shared Google spreadsheet. And then being, in a way, surprised by the fact that their credit card was cloned. I said, this is the least that can happen to you. But this, unfortunately, is something that we have to do. We have to help users understand the differences. There's nothing bad in using proprietary services if you do that in a way that you know what you are sharing and you're not what you're giving away. Giving away your sensitive data is an issue. And the number of vulnerabilities that I've shown, it's based mostly on people that are sharing data in an unconscious way.
How much of your company income do you share with individual developers?
Sorry?
The income of your company, how much do you share with individual developers who develop code?
Document Foundation is funded by donations. Not a single developer is paid by donations. Donations pay for the infrastructure, not for developers. We don't pay developers. Developers are paid by companies or are volunteers. In some cases, they look like volunteers, but then you discover that they are paid by a small company to solve some bugs or to develop some specific feature. So they look like volunteers because they do not belong to a company. But the reality is that we don't pay, and this is one of the pillars. It's not one of the 5, but it would be the 6th if there were 6. We will never pay developers. Of course, there are developers who are paid to work on LibreOffice, but this is part of the business model of their company. Otherwise, it would be impossible to we wouldn't need to. Sun was paying around 60 developers. So if you enter into that game, we should have instead of having a global cost of staying within €1 million each year, we should be like Mozilla with a yearly income of 60 to 70 million euros. And this would be really difficult, if not impossible. So if we enter that game, we would lose immediately.
Okay, any more questions? If not, then we have a break till 10:30 with our next speaker. Thank you very much.